Om Shri Padmatmane Namaham. Devotees Jai Sita Ram. We do apologize for starting a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties. But now that we're all here, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our virtual Sunday morning satsang for today, August 2nd, 2020. At this time, devotees, I ask that we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes. We focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we commence with our prayers for today. Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Ishavasyam miram sarvam Yatkinsha jagatyam jagat Tena tyaktena bhunjetam Magrudhakasya svidhanam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Hari Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Devotees, at this time I ask that we all join together as we commence in chanting the most powerful Gayatri Mantra. Om Agakshavare Devi Akshare Brahmavadini Gayatri Jagat Matar Vishwayoni Namostute Om Bhuri Bhuvaswam Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayata Om Bhuri Bhuvaswam Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayata Om Bhuri Bhuvaswam Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayata Hari Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Prem Sabor Gayatri Mata Ki Jai. Devotees, at this time, we will now offer prayers and obediences to that destroyer of all obstacles in our life. And by obstacles, we mean physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional obstacles. We offer prayers to Lord Ganesh. Om Yajananam Bhuta Ghanadhi Sevitam Kapita Jambu Palachara Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinashkarakam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabham Nirviganam Kurme Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvadam Om Naraksha Raksha Ganadaksham Rakshatre Lokya Rakshakara Bhaktanam Bhayam Karita Trata Bhava Bhavaranavar Om Shriman Mahaganadipate Namaham Prem Sabolo Ganesh Bhagwan Ki Jai. Devotees, as we continue on with our prayers, I ask that we all join together as we offer prayers to that universal mother and that destroyer of all evils in our life, as we offer prayers to Adi Shakti Durga Mata. Om Mahadundurgaye Namaham Om Shayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapalini Durgakshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Je Tvam Devi Chamunde Je Potarte Niharini Je Sarvagate Devi Kalyaratri Namostute Adevi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Mayibdi Shabdita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Samstita Namastasye, 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 namo namaya Devi sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samstita Namastasye, 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 namo namaya Devi sarvabhuteshu Tushni rupena samstita Namastasye, 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 namo namaya Devi sarvabhuteshu Daya rupena samstita Namastasye, 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 namo namaya Devi sarvabhuteshu Matri rupena samstita Namastasye, 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 namo namah Dehi saubhagyam narogyam Dehi me paramam sukham Rupam dehi jayam dehi Yasho dehi yasho jahi Om Prem Sabarwadi Shakti Durga Mata Ki Jai. Devotees, as we continue on with our prayers, we offer obediences to that sustainer of all righteousness and all things dharmic in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Vishnu. Om Shri Vishnu Namaham. Om Shantakaram Bhujaghayayanam Padmanabham Surisham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrasham Meghavarnam Shubhangham Om Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Bhiradhyana Gamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavamaya Haram Sarvaloke Kanatam Om Sashankha Chakram Sakirita Kundhalam Sapita Vastram Sarasirurekshanam Sahara Vakshastal Shobhikostu Bhashriyam Namami Vishnu Shirasat Chatura Bhujam Namami Vishnu Shirasat Chatura Bhujam Om Prem Se Bolo Vishnu Bhagwane Ki Jai. And finally, devotees, we now offer prayers to that universal Father, that universal Guru. We offer prayers to that destroyer of all evils in this life, in our life, and in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Karapurhang Haurang Harunavataram Sansara Saram Bhujagendraharam Sarha Santam Hirdayarduine Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Devotees, may we all join together as we chant Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Devotees, we offer this next prayer for all those suffering from various illnesses, diseases, injuries, and ailments. We have so that they may have a fast, speedy, and full recovery. We also offer a prayer for those transitioning from this world to the next. May their passage be a smooth and tranquil one. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Vandanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Vandanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Vandanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Kartikeya Namaha. Om Nandishwaraya Namaha. Om Vasukiye Namaha. Om Shri Sambasara Shivaya Namaham. Prem se Bolo Shiva Shankara Bhagwan ki jai. Devotees, before we move into our sermon for today, for all of us who have a guru, I ask that we all join together as we offer a prayer to our guru. If you do not have a guru, I ask that you take Lord Shiva in your mind and worship him as the universal guru as we join together and pray. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaham. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaham. Prem se Bolo Guru Deo ki jai. Devotees, last week we were continuing on with our discussion within chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagvat Gita. And we ended on verse 31 of chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagvat Gita. And as we had mentioned last week, Bhagwan Shri Krishna, at the end of his statement, is asking and telling Arjuna a question. I never told you what that question was. I hope you all did your homework, maybe some research to see what verse 31 stated. But in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan Shri Krishna poses this question to Arjuna. He says, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Yajna Sistam Ratnam Bhujo Yantim Brahma Sanatanam Nayam Lokosya Yajnasya Kothonya Kurusa Dhamma. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna turns to Arjuna and says, O best of the Kurus, a person who does not perform yajna means a sacrifice, it's something that we do, cannot even attain this earthly planet with its meager happiness. How then can he attain the planets of the Devas and others? So it says that a person who cannot perform their sacrifice can't even attain happiness. They're not performing actions. They're not doing anything. So how can they attain happiness? If you can't attain the small little pieces of happiness, how do you expect to attain moksha? It's more of a theoretical question that he's asking Arjuna. And I pose that question to you in your daily lives. If we can't accept and appreciate the little things that we're given on a daily basis, how are we expected to enjoy life as a whole? Serena told me an analogy, which is that sometimes people are given a pot of gold in their life. It's nice to have a pot of gold. big amount of wealth. But in some instances, even if you give a person a pot of gold, they still may not be satisfied. Instead of focusing on the fact that they have wealth and riches, they're focusing on the fact that that pot may be dirty. Maybe the gold, even though it's a lot, weighs too much. Maybe the nuggets that are worth something are too small to them. So even though they have all of this value in their life, they can't appreciate it. So that's what he's asking. Theoretically, if you cannot enjoy the little things, everything that you're given, enjoy that small, meager happiness, the small pieces of happiness in your life, how are you expected to attain moksha because you can't enjoy the bigger picture? So he goes on to talk more about this. And I want you to keep in mind, remember, we're in chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Jnana Yoga, meaning transcendental knowledge, what transcendental knowledge is. And we're really at the end. We have only a few more verses. But Bhagwan Shri Krishna goes on to tell Arjuna a few more pieces about how we can actually understand to enjoy the small little bits of happiness. He goes on to state, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Evam Bahu Vidhayajnam Vitata Brahmano Mukhe Karma Jan Vidhitan Sarvan Evam Jnatva Vimuksyase Sreyandrayam Yajnana Jnana Yajna Param Tapa Sarvam Karma Kilam Bharta Jnane Parisam Apyate Tad Vidhi Pranipatina Pariprasnena Sevaya Upadhikstyanti te jnanam jnanena tattva-dharsina yajnatva-apna purnam moham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanya asena draksyasya atmanyeto mai apiched asipabhebhya sarvebhya paprakritama sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijhinam samtarisyasi Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. In verse 32 of chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan Shri Krishna tells Arjuna the various types of yajna, the various types of sacrifices that we have to perform in life are elaborately explained in the Vedas. Knowing all of them, be born of karma, you will attain moksha. So, in order to sacrifice, what Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying, in order to perform our yajna, we have to perform karma, which is action. All of these things are detailed into the Vedas, and if we can perform our action, if we can do action to perform sacrifice, eventually we'll attain moksha. We'll attain liberation, salvation from the cycle of births and deaths in this physical world. He says, oh, Arjuna, jnana yajna, which is transcendental yajna, transcendental knowledge, knowing what transcendental knowledge is superior to dravya maya yajna, which is the renunciation of material possessions. So he's saying that having that knowledge is superior. It's more superior than just giving up all of these physical things in this world. Because, O Arjuna, the performance of all prescribed actions culminates in transcendental knowledge. We can give up everything that we have in this world, is what Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying. I can give up my phone. But if I don't have the thought process as to why I'm giving up my phone, then it doesn't really mean anything. We have to know why we're doing something. That's what transcendental knowledge is. It's the knowledge of we're doing something for a particular reason. We don't just do it because somebody tells us to do it. We have to know in our minds, in our hearts, in our atma, our soul, that it's right. And we learn that from people like our parents, our siblings, our gurus, our teachers. So what he's saying is, even if you give up all these material possessions in this world, if you don't know why you're doing it, it means nothing. That knowledge is far superior than just performing the action. Knowing why you're performing action is far superior than just performing that action. I always use this analogy, and I'll use it time and time and again, when you're donating to charity. Some of us know, knowledge-wise, that we donate to charity because we're going to get the tax break out of it. Not because when we donate to charity, we think that money is going to go somewhere good. So in our heads, if we know and we understand that we're donating to charity to make people better off, and not so we can avoid those taxes that are put upon us at the end of the year, transcendentally, our knowledge is superior because we know we're doing good in this world. There's no ulterior motive. He goes on to say in verse 34, acquire this transcendental knowledge by offering prostrated obediences to a guru who imparts transcendental knowledge by asking relevant questions from him and rendering service to him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So in this verse, and I want to break this down because I think it is very important for students and for teachers to understand. You prostrate obediences to a guru who imparts transcendental knowledge. And the only way that that guru can impart knowledge is if you ask relevant questions and if you render the service to your guru, to your teacher. There's this scenario that we have in classrooms where the teacher will be explaining something, and I guarantee you there's a huge subset of students in the room who may not understand what's going on. But then let's say I'm one of those students who doesn't understand what's going on. I decide not to ask a question. Even though I don't understand, I'm not going to ask the question. Because in my head, I probably assume, and this has definitely happened to me in the past, I think somebody else is going to ask the question. If I don't understand it, other people don't understand it. But then nobody asks the question. So then in my head, I start doubting, oh no, am I not as smart as everybody else in the room? Is it just because I don't understand what's going on? Well, no, it's because I didn't ask the question. In order for a teacher to teach, they have to have questions. They have to know what's confusing you. They have to know what you don't understand. I can read you everything from the Srimad Bhagvat Gita. But I ask you questions with the hope that at some point in time, you'll ask me questions too. The guru, once asked a question, or when someone asks the guru a question, should be able to provide an answer, imparting knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. One of the things that I've never been a fan of is when somebody asks a teacher a question and the teacher says, that's how it is because I said so. That's how it's been done historically, so that's how we're going to do it now. That never answers the question why, and that's why I love hearing questions from little children. My niece and nephew too, they'll ask it all the time. The biggest, most difficult question in this world, why? It's sunshiny out, why? It's raining out, why? The sky is blue, why? Grass is green, why? If I told you because that's how it is, that doesn't answer any questions. So, there's a mutual relationship here. A student will get the transcendental knowledge from a teacher by serving that teacher, respecting your teachers, always respect your teachers, but also by asking questions. The guru, in turn, will answer your questions because they have the knowledge and they can impart that knowledge to you because they have seen the truth. But that requires a mutual trust. For the gurus in the world, it's inappropriate to say it because that's how it is. The reason we can answer those questions fully is because we understand the truth. We know the truth. We've seen the truth. We understand what goes on in the world. But if you answer the question with because that's how it is or because I said so, I guarantee you that person probably doesn't know the answer. I've definitely used that as an excuse before too, because I said so, because that's how it is. But honestly, because I don't know the answer. And if somebody asks me a question, I say, I don't know the answer. What's the worst thing that could happen? Oh no, I don't know an answer to one question. That doesn't make me a fool, doesn't make me an idiot. But what I'm doing is exerting my pride to say, oh, I'm supposed to be the one that knows all the knowledge. So if I tell them this is how it is and they don't question me, then we're good to go. But in that sense, I'm lacking in my own life. I don't have jnana. I don't have transcendental knowledge, and I refuse to get it. I'm performing actions without realizing what they mean, why I do them, why we perform them. So we've got to understand that we ask the questions, we receive answers to the questions, and if you don't know, you can always ask somebody else. If I don't know the answer, I can always reach out to my own guru. I can reach out to my uncles. I can reach out to my parents. I have a network of people that I can ask. So for me to say, I don't know, yeah, I can say I don't know today. Tomorrow, that shouldn't be the case. Going on, in verse 35, Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, O Arjuna, after acquiring such jnana, transcendental knowledge, you will never again be deluded. By that knowledge, you You will see all living beings as jivatmas, and you will be seen in me. And you will see them in me, Paramatma. Paramatma means seeing God in everything. We understand this one fundamental principle in Sanatana Dharma. And that principle that every living being has a soul, an Atma. And that Atma, that soul, is what? It's a spark of God. It's a piece of God. It's a piece of Bhagwan. Now let me ask you a question. Would you boldly look God in the face and insult him? Not a lot of people would, right? Because we know there's repercussions. You insult God in the face, he may curse you to continuously live a cycle of births and deaths as a lower being, as a lower form. Would you spit on God? Would you kick dirt on God? Would you call God worthless? Would you call God a bum? Now take that fundamental understanding and remember that each person in this world has a spark of God within them. So if you wouldn't do that to God, would you spit on another person? Would you call another person worthless? Would you call another person a bum? If you had that fundamental understanding in your mind that there's a spark of God within them? Every living creature is born with that spark. And it's not just about people either. We say living creatures. There are so many living creatures in this world. Cows, dogs, cats, elephants, rhinos. It's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking to see how we treat other living beings. We hunt rhinos and elephants for their ivory, for their horns. For what? Decorations for our homes? For some material possession? Those sins that we constantly perform hurt us more than anything in the world. Hurt your soul. Hurt that spark of God. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying, once you have this good transcendental knowledge, you'll understand Paramatma, that in every Atma, there is a piece of me. And if you treat every person, every living being, like you would treat me, you will attain moksha. You will understand what transcendental knowledge is. And therefore, your karma, the actions that you perform, will be wholesome. They'll be good. They'll be pure because you know you're doing it for the right reason. It's an analogy. You never treat somebody bad. Never should treat somebody bad. It's hard to do because we're human. We have emotions. We don't just have love and happiness. We're also born with an understanding that we can develop hatred, anger, jealousy, greed, and violence too. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's something that we need to try because that's what the knowledge has taught us. That's what we should have learned throughout the generations. We study history because if we don't understand it, we're doomed to repeat it. Transcendental knowledge. He ends this part by saying in verse 36, even if you were the most sinful of sinners, you will be able to completely cross over the ocean of all sins by taking shelter of this boat of transcendental knowledge. Jnana, of transcendental knowledge. So even the most sinful of sinners, if they take shelter in understanding transcendental knowledge, they will attain moksha. That's not to say that if you've been a terrible sinner your entire life, and at the end of your life you understand transcendental knowledge, you'll achieve moksha. He's saying that you need to take shelter in the boat of transcendental knowledge. If you're going to sit in a boat, how long are you in that boat for? If you sit in a boat or if you're sitting in a car, that means you're taking a journey. So he's not saying you get in, you get out. It's you get in this boat, you take a journey across the ocean, and once you take that journey across the ocean, you'll attain moksha because you understand transcendental knowledge. You've done the good in your life. The way I equated this when we were talking about it, or when I was talking about it with Serena and my parents, was understanding that we have a prison system. In the United States, I'm going to talk because I only know about the prison system in the United States. Some prisoners are there for their entire life because of the sins and the crimes that they performed. Others are there for a period of time and then they come out. Now, when they come out, there's two paths they can take. They can continue to sin and live a life of darkness. But there are some who come out from prison who are reformed, who are good people at that point. However, all we see was the sinner, And therefore, we never get them a chance for redemption. Just because somebody was in prison and they're out doesn't mean that they're still a bad person. If they take shelter in this boat known as jnana, transcendental knowledge, and they live their life accordingly, they will achieve salvation. There are some instances in which we claim a person is a sinner because we take the time not to understand. I've seen plenty of cases like this too, where people get falsely imprisoned because the facts were against them. And they live their life entirely in prison. They come out of prison and they still can't maintain a good life because they're deemed as an evil sinner, when really they never committed a sin in the first place. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They looked the wrong way at the wrong moment. What Bhagwan Krishna is saying is that if we understand transcendental knowledge, even if we've committed heinous acts, and we live that life, understanding what transcendental knowledge is, understanding what Paramatma is, understanding how we need to treat people, we will achieve moksha. It's as simple as that. We say simple. It's still very difficult. I can give you one example as to how it is very difficult to treat all living beings the same thing, the same exact way. I personally am mortified of two things: snakes and buzzing sounds going by my head. My wife can tell you, if I hear like the zzz going right by my head, I freak out. I lunge out of the way. I don't know why. If I get stung, I get stung. We can get it removed, right? My wife hates roaches. We don't like roaches in the house. Nobody likes roaches in the house. So we do all these things to get rid of the roaches. We kill them. We stomp on them. We put poison out, right? Why can't we just live in harmony? Well, there are health reasons with that too. But when it comes to things like bugs, snakes, roaches, and all that other stuff, we have such a pent-up aggression towards them that we want to get them out of our lives. So we do vile, heinous things to get rid of them, never understanding the fact that, oh no, there's a spark of God in there that I'm actually destroying. But Bhagwan Sri Krishna goes on to say, in these final verses of chapter 4, starting at verse 37, he tells Arjuna specifically, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Yathadhamsi Samidhognira Bhasam Satkuru Arjuna Shnanagni Sarva Karmani Bhasam Satkuru Tata Nahi Jnanena Sandrasham Pavitram Iha Vidyate Tatsvayam Yoga Samsiddha Kalinatmani Vindati Shraddha Vamna Labhate Jnanam Tatpara Samyatindriya Jnanam Labdhva Param Santim Achirina Nigachati Ajnascha Shraddhadhasnascha Samsayatma Vinasyati Nayam Lokostina Parola Sukham Samsayathamana Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. He says, O Arjuna, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ash, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Our knowledge is stronger than the material activities. It's the fire that burns within us and burns away the acts of the material activities. It overcomes it because it's stronger. In this world, there is nothing more purifying than transcendental knowledge. Yes, fire does burn. We just said that transcendental knowledge is like fire, but fire is also purifying. It provides energy, sustenance, it provides life. A person who has attained complete perfection in devotional services receives such transcendental knowledge naturally within his heart in due course of time. So it's not saying that if I were to perform devotional service right now, if I started performing devotional, if I turned away from the camera and just worship God, it doesn't mean that I'm getting that transcendental knowledge right now. It means over time, I will acquire that knowledge. In order for me to have transcendental knowledge, I have to continue to perform devotional service. Remember, devotional service is not just the service you perform to Bhagwan. It's not just the service that you perform here. It's the services that you perform to your body as well. What you see, what you hear, what you consume. But it's also the services, these devotional services you're doing to the rest of the world. Recycling is a great example. Charity work is a great example. Feeding those who can't feed themselves is an example. We understand that transcendental knowledge by performing our devotional services over time. I think, and I've seen this too, the people who tend to have some of the greatest wisdom in the world are those who have traveled the world. It's those who have seen different things in the world. Different injustices have helped different people. My parents have traveled all over the world. My wife has also traveled all over the world. I have kind of. I don't really remember it. I wasn't performing service at that time. Service was being performed for me because I was a baby. So I didn't understand transcendental knowledge like they did, like they do. In order for us to have this knowledge that consumes all of sin, we have to continue to perform devotional service. And in due time, we'll receive the benefits. So that doesn't mean that I'm going to perform something good today and reap the benefits throughout the week. That doesn't mean that if I eat 3 chocolate cakes today and I exercise tomorrow, I'm working off those chocolate cakes. I've got to do the service to continuously be good. If I want a piece of cake today, that's fine. I can work off that piece of cake today. If I want to make sure that I have a nice, good week, that doesn't mean if I get all of my work done today, the week will be good. New things come along every day. We've got to continue working. Don't do all of your work in one day and expect that you can do nothing for the rest of the week. Continue to do your karma. Continue to perform your actions. Do them with devotion. Put all of your effort into it. It'll make you happier. It'll make you a better person. It'll provide you with things that you never thought you could attain. That is what all of this is about. Understanding that knowledge that's in your head, the knowledge of living on a day-to-day basis. A person who is faithful, who has conquered his senses, who is devoted to the practice of Niskama Karma Yoga, attains transcendental knowledge. After attaining transcendental knowledge, he quickly attains supreme peace, relief from bondage to the material world. Be faithful. Conquer your senses. Do everything that is the most difficult thing to do in the world. Conquering your senses, we've talked about this multiple times, is so hard to do. To pay attention to what you see, to what you hear, to what you smell, and then to have to voice your opinion of it. I woke up this morning and I came to set up the puja place, and I did not know my mom was in here praying. I could have continued to set everything up, but then I know in my head, in my heart, that would have been a distraction to my mom who was praying. Now, even though I didn't make too much noise, Mom, you knew I was there, right? Yeah. But that didn't deter her from doing what she needed to do. She finished her entire puja. She picked up all of her stuff. Then she walked out of the room and said, Ram Ram. And I said, Ram Ram. And then I started to do my work. If we understand how to control our senses, if we understand this work of devotional service, if we remain faithful to our own causes, our own hearts, our own lives, we will attain moksha. We'll attain peace. But remember, devotees, we talked about how hard that is. It's going to take time. Don't expect good to happen overnight. And don't expect everything to be handed to you. You have to work for it. Those who are ignorant, those who are faithless, and of doubting nature are ruined. For the doubting person, there is happiness neither in this world nor the next. And I think that is a very powerful line, because we're almost at the end of this. I think that is a very powerful line. If you doubt, and if you continue to doubt, there's not going to be happiness for you today. There's not going to be happiness for you tomorrow. And there won't be happiness for you in the next life or the next. We have to perform the acts that we do with confidence. We have to perform them understanding that a result is going to come out of it, and we've got to accept what that result is either way. We as humans, we as creatures of this world are filled with doubt. I am filled with doubt. I'm reading these scriptures. I understand theoretically what transcendental knowledge is, but it's hard for me to put it into practice because I too am filled with doubt. Will the virtual service work? Will my meeting tomorrow go as planned? Will I be able to solve the problem that we have on Wednesday so nobody else gets harmed? I have doubt about what goes on in the world sometimes. Will we come to our realization and senses about how bad COVID is? Remain socially distant, not go out. Smooth the curve, try to stop the spread. I feel doubtful about so many things. And it's true. And because of that, I know that right now in this world, I can't attain happiness. You know what I love about some of the older generation, some of the older people? Is that they like to say what they want to say. They don't have a doubt. They just do what they want to do. They'll get up and they'll go and eat whatever they want to eat. They'll go play and do whatever they want to play with. They'll watch whatever TV they want to watch. You ask them a question and they don't have any doubt. They just say it. You ask them an opinion about how you look. No doubts. They'll just say it. That's why some of the older folks are attaining happiness a little bit easier. Sometimes they don't attain that happiness because we let them know how we feel. But we don't understand that they've lived through a life. They've taken that amount of time to perform their devotional services and sacrifice to understand what is in the world, what true happiness is. But even then, sometimes there's still doubt out there. So I want you to understand how strong doubt is in our lives, how strong doubt is in other people's lives, and what part of our lives is responsible for helping eliminate that doubt. Every single person you come into contact with has the ability to achieve greatness. They have the ability to lead this world if need be. They have the ability to change lives. And it's not only up to us to make sure we believe in ourselves, but that we believe in others as well. Finishing up, chapter 4, verses 41 and 42 of the Srimad Bhagvat Gita. Bhagavan Shri Krishna ends by telling Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Yoga Samnyasta Karmanam, Jnanam Samchena Samsayam, Atmavantam na Karmani, na Bhajnanti Dhanam Jaya, Tasmad Ajnana Sambhutam, Ritstam Jnana Sinatmana, Chitva Inam Samsayam Yogam, Atistotista Bharata, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. He says, O Arjuna, O conqueror of riches, a person who has renounced karma, who has renounced their action through the process of Niskama Karma Yoga, devotional service, who has dispelled all of his doubts by jnana, by understanding transcendental knowledge, by that wisdom, and who has realized his Atma Swarupa, is not bound by karma. He can perform akarma. Bhagwan Shri Krishna realizes this, but he still performs his duties because he wants others to emulate the things that he does to perpetuate good in this world. He ends to tell Arjuna, therefore, O Arjuna, with this sword of jnana, with this sword of knowledge, Slash the doubt in your heart, which is born of ignorance. Take shelter in Nikama Karma Yoga and prepare for battle. Perform your karma. This is your devotional service. This is what your karma states. If you understand, if you pray, if you take shelter in understanding this transcendental knowledge, you will be able to perform your action. You'll be able to perform the things that you do. Transcendental knowledge is so powerful. When we do something in our lives, we do it based off influence. We perform puja based off how we see our parents do it, how we see our families do it. But always take the time to ask. Get that transcendental knowledge and ask, why do we do this? I guarantee you sometimes the answer is going to be, oh, that's how my mother did it when we were a child. That's what the pundit told us to do. But always dig in and ask further, why are we doing these actions? Always ask yourself in life, why am I performing this? And perform it without doubt. Be confident in yourself. Understand this knowledge and take the time over the course of your life to achieve your happiness. Prem se Bolo Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Devotees, before we commence with our final prayers, we'll have one bhajan and then we will move on.
बनवारी रे जीने का सहारा तेरा नाम रे, मुझे दुनिया वालों से क्या काम रे। बनवारी रे जीने का सहारा तेरा नाम रे, मुझे दुनिया वालों से क्या काम रे। झूठी दुनिया, झूठी बंधन, झूठी है माया, झूठा सास का आना जाना, झूठी है काया। ओ यह साचो तेरो नाम रे, बनवारी रे जीने का सहारा तेरा नाम रे, मुझे दुनिया वालों से क्या काम रे। रंग में तेरे रंग गए गिरधर, छोड़ दिया जग सारा। रंग में तेरे रंग गए गिरधर, छोड़ दिया जग सारा। बन गए तेरे प्रेम की जोगन, लेकर मन एक तारा। ओ मुझे प्यार तेरो धाम रे, बनवारी रे जीने का सहारा तेरा नाम रे, मुझे दुनिया वालों से क्या काम रे। दर्शन तेरा जिस दिन पाओ, हर चिंता मिट जाए। दर्शन तेरा जिस दिन पाओ, हर चिंता मिट जाए। जीवन की ज्योत जलाए। ओ मेरे बाह पकड़ लो श्याम रे बनवारी रे, जीने का सहाया तेरा नाम रे। मुझे दुनिया वालों से क्या काम रे बनवारी रे, जीने का सहारा तेरा नाम रे। मुझे दुनिया वालों से क्या काम रे।
Devotees, at this time, I ask that we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes, focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we offer these final closing prayers. Om Sarvesham Swasti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shanti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschitha Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Mantrahinam Kriyahinam Bhaktinam Janardanam, Yatya Pujitam Maya Deva Paripurnam Tarastu Me. Papoham Papo Karamaham, Papa Atma Papo Sambhava, Trahimam Pundari Kaksham, Sarva Papo Haro Hari. Om Tvameva Matascha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Asutoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Mritam Yamaya. Hari Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Prem se bolo Guru Deo ki jai. Om Dhyav Shantir Antarikshang Om Shantir Prithvi Shantir Apa Shantir Aushadhaya Shantir Vanaspati Shantir Vishwadeva Shantir Brahma Shantir Sarve Om Shanti Shanti Reva Shanti Sama Shanti Redhi. Hari Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. प्रेम से बोलो गणेश भगवान की जय, प्रेम से बोलो आदि शक्ति दुर्गा माता की जय, प्रेम से बोलो विष्णु भगवान की जय, प्रेम से बोलो शिव शंकर भगवान की जय, प्रेम से बोलो शिव शक्ति मंदिर की जय, प्रेम से बोलो सनातन धर्म की जय. Devotees, with this, we have come to the end of our Sunday morning satsang, our virtual Sunday morning satsang, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here today. We do have a few announcements for you all in a moment. We're going to have one more bhajan, and then we'll hand the mic. Well, I'll give you your final announcements.
पार करो मेरा बेड़ा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेड़ा, पार करो मेरा बेड़ा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेड़ा। छाया घोर अंधेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेड़ा, पार करो मेरा बेड़ा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेड़ा। गहरी नदियाँ नाम पुरानी, दया करो मार्य भवानी। गहरी नदियाँ नाम पुरानी, दया करो मार्य भवानी। गहरी नदियाँ नाम पुरानी, दया सोई। मैं निर्गुणियन गुण नहीं कोई, मया जगा दो किस्मत सोई। मैं निर्गुणियन गुण नहीं कोई, मैया जगा दो किस्मत सोई। देखियो ना गुण मेरा भवानी, देखियो ना गुण मेरा। पार करो मेरा बेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेरा। भक्तों को माँ ऐसा वर दो, प्यार की एक नजर माँ कर दो। भक्तों को माँ ऐसा वर दो, प्यार की एक नजर माँ कर दो। भक्तों को माँ ऐसा वर दो, प्यार की एक नजर माँ कर दो। लूटे पाप लुटेरा भवानी, लूटे पाप लुटेरा। पार करो मेरा बेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेरा। छाया घोर अंधेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेरा। पार करो मेरा बेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेरा। पार करो मेरा बेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेरा। पार करो मेरा बेरा भवानी, पार करो मेरा बेरा।
Devotees Jai Sita Ram. We just have a few announcements that we would like to share, or I would like to share on behalf of the Shiv Shakti Mandir for this week. As you've noticed that we're still doing virtual service, and we're doing so mainly because based off of Georgia health data that we're getting from our hospitals and recommended guidelines, we're still remaining socially distant. At this time, we do not actually have a date at which we will be coming back to the temple to be doing our regular Sunday morning satsang. So until further notice, devotees, and we will let you know and give you updates as we can, we will continue and remain to do our virtual Sunday morning satsang. As you see, we're currently not at our beautiful temple. We're at a beautiful puja place in the great land that our president lives in. And we're doing so because we have a lot of technological components that we have just created and built, and they are kind of stable. And until we can get those things set up at the mandir, we will be doing remote virtual services until we can get the mandir fully set up with all of the technology and equipment. We do have a few birthdays that we would like to announce and celebrate. So this past week, my god sister, Ashwini Tiwari, celebrated her birthday. Auntie Mala Sahid celebrated her birthday. Auntie Farida Defrida celebrated her birthday. And Auntie Chandra Prasad also celebrated her birthday. So to all four of you, on behalf of the Shiv Shakti Mandir, the executive board, and everybody, we'd like to wish you a very wonderful and happy birthday. I hope you all got a wonderful chance to celebrate. I hope you got fed a lot of vegan cake or whatever it is you decide to eat for your birthday, but happy birthday to all of you. Other announcements that we have, devotees, are for different events that we have going on. Tomorrow, which is Monday, August 3rd, marks the period known as Raksha Bandhan. And that is a period for brothers and sisters to celebrate the relationship that they have with each other. Typical things to do is that the sister will tie a bracelet onto the brother's right hand. That bracelet usually has some ornaments on it, should have some red in it or red thread to represent protection. The sister ties that thread on for spiritual protection for the brother, and the promise is that the brother will always protect the sister. I know that when we say that a female gets married, they go to another cooler household, but that does not mean they're not a part of your family. And that does not mean that relationship is ever broken. Brothers, it's also your responsibility to not only protect your sister, but to provide a gift. Now, I'm not saying go, get a bunch of moolah, but you can feed them a sweet. You can do what's in your means. For the sisters, don't be greedy. Don't expect them to give you a bunch of stuff. Remember, this relationship, this celebration is about the relationship of protection between you and your sibling, not about the material possessions in this world. So that is tomorrow. I think I'm saving that to save myself right now. That is tomorrow, Monday, August 3rd. We also have 2 other very important events coming up this month. On Tuesday, August 11th, which is this August, we will be celebrating Krishna Janmashtami. And as I mentioned before, devotees, since we're still remaining socially distant, that puja will be done virtually. Next week, I'll give you all some more details as to what you can have prepared at home. I do recommend that you have a Murti of Lord Krishna, that you have some chandan, and at least some fruits ready to offer. We will be doing remote service. We will be doing it, I believe, here in the same location, and we'll be live at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to perform our Krishna Janmashtami Puja. So again, that is Tuesday, August 11th at 7 p.m. We will be performing that puja. And then the last event that we have going on this month on Friday, August 21st, is Ganesh Chaturthi. That is for this month particularly. Keep in mind there is a Chaturthi every month at the beginning of the month, but the main one that we're celebrating is going to be this year on the 21st. And again, because we're remaining socially distant, we will be doing that service virtually as well. That puja will begin for us at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, August 21st. So please tune in to our YouTube channel to see the information and the details. And a little later on, devotees, I'll have some materials and things that you can have at home so that you can perform puja alongside with us as we perform these pujas to Lord Krishna on the 11th and to Lord Ganesh on the 21st. With that being said, devotees, I have no other announcements. I hope you all have a safe, happy, healthy, and wonderful week. Remember, devoid your life of any doubt, live positively, and work towards your happiness each and every day. Jai Sita Ram, devotees, and we'll see you next time.